I just couldn't do it anymore. At one point I had Notion, Readwise, Obsidian, Evernote, another Notion account, Instapaper, and I was trying to link all these things together, and I was just overwhelmed. I spent more time trying to actually find where to put my notes than actually reading my notes. But then I made one change, one simple fix that changed everything. I switched to only using Apple Notes. And Apple Notes was simple, but it was deceptively powerful. Toggle lists, subheadings, headings, linking to other files, co-working, and on such a lovely, pretty, just simple layout. I loved it. And switching to it from my recent debacle with all those apps has been just a breath of fresh air, and I feel more organized than I've ever been before. So what I want to show you is exactly how I set up my Apple Notes system to optimize my workflow, organize everything in a really simple way. And the way I do this is with the Palace system, MECE organization, and kind of making sure there's a place for all my readings, all my learnings, all my podcast notes, everything like that. So let's start with the Palace system. So Palace just stands for projects, actions, learnings, and archives. And projects are just the most important 1, 2, or 3 actions that I need to take. Actions are just those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 most important actions that I need to take. L is learnings, right? Which is just everything that I've taken notes on, including books, podcasts, documentaries, anything like that. And A is archive, so anything that I haven't used in the past year or don't anticipate using in the near future. And many people use something called para, which is projects, areas, resources, and archives. So I've kept the projects and I've kept the archives, but areas and resources were just really confusing for me. I didn't know how to separate them and which place was meant to go where, and I wanted to design this note system for me. And again, I'm just showing you what works for me. When you design your note system, right, maybe you use this as an inspiration, but you set it up in whichever way works best for you. Okay, so let me show you exactly right here what the palette looks like on my notes. So you can see it looks very simple right now. Projects, actions, learnings, archives, right? So let me go through each one. I'll show you what each project's, actions, learnings, archives are like. Then I'll go over the subfolders, how I organize my subfolders. And then finally, I'll go over how I actually do some little special tricks with Apple Notes, which I only discovered recently. Okay, so looking at projects first, right? If you go to projects, you see I have only two things, right? Because I want to limit my projects to preferably, honestly, just one, but at a very absolute maximum, 3 things. That's because there should only be one thing that I'm focusing on at a time. I have this basically 12-week year. I read this amazing book, but in it, I want to have one personal goal for 12 weeks and one professional goal for 12 weeks. So for example, I have 2 professional goals right here under my projects, and that is coding and that is personal stories. So let's go through each of these again. And inside of each one, again, this can be anything, right? So you can see for coding, it's very simple. I just have certain projects, certain things to do. But for my actual Highley LLC, I've got a bunch of stuff, right? I'm writing books, I've got products, I've got standard operating procedures, I've got marketing, I've got YouTube, I've got website, a bunch of stuff, right? So these are just the things that are top of mind. These are my projects. Now, if we look at actions, right? Every one of these actions could actually be a project, right? But the thing is, I wanted my projects to be the things that are top of mind, the things that I'm working on right now, while actions are just pretty much everything else that I could work on in the future. So for example, I have a personal life, a business, and relationships, and a MISC. So the other thing I want to talk about is this thing called MECE. So MECE just means mutually exclusive and completely exhaustive. Don't worry about that term actually at all. So the only things I try to do with my subfolders are make sure that each folder is unique, and when I have all my folders together, it encompasses every possible option. Okay, so you'll notice that I have subfolders for each of these para sections, and what I want to do with these subfolders is make sure that each subfolder is unique, but when I put all the subfolders together, they could encompass every possible situation, right? Every possible thing. So I think the best place to look under this is the actions category for now. So if you look under actions, right, I have personal life, business, relationships, and MISC. Every single thing in my life could probably be fit under one of these 4 categories, right? So that means it's completely exhaustive. It's listing out every single part of my life. Now, if I look under relationships, I think this is also helpful, right? What kind of relationships do you have? Well, maybe you have romantic relationships, maybe you have family or friends relationships, and then maybe you have business relationships. Now, that's probably all the possible kinds of relationships there are in existence, right? And hopefully family relationships, right, can't be inside of romantic relationships, right? They're exclusive to one another. Everything inside of the family relationships is going to be different than anything inside the romantic relationships, right? The same with friends, right? Of course, your family are your friends, but all your friends are going to be people that aren't in your family, right? And all your family are going to be people that aren't categorized as your friends. So, for example, if you look in this relationships category, you'll see that I have family, I have friends, I have business, So inside of family, right, I have immediate and extended. That basically categorizes all of my family. Inside of friends, I have close and far, so like my closer friends and my less close friends. Inside of business, now this doesn't encompass everything, so I could keep adding to this, but I have medicine, YouTube, consulting, connections. The important thing is that when I first open up one of these folders, right, I'll know basically which direction to go to find something, right? So projects, these are the first things top of my mind. Actions, say, you know, it's something that I was thinking about that I wanted to do in business. So what did I want to do? Okay, so here are all my ideas. I had ideas about this kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I also have a realty idea, so I can go into that. So when I ever go into my business section or something like that, right, I'll say, okay, I had a nice call with someone from YouTube or something like that. Let me just update what I talked about here, and then I'll go out. And then I can easily find each one of these things. So I think the important thing, right, is that it's simple and it makes sense to me. Folders, whatever's inside of a subfolder can't be in other subfolders, and whatever is inside the big categories aren't going to be inside the other big categories, right? Okay, but let's keep going. So if we go to the learning folder, for example, it's the same kind of thing. This is cooking, this is languages, this is media, and inside media, I have all the books and stuff like that. But you'll see each one of these kind of folders has a bunch of individual notes that can be pretty much anything, right? We kind of lose a lot of the MECE and the specific organization here, because this is where you just list your stuff. But hopefully, because your subfolders are so organized, like mine are so organized, I know exactly where to go. So for example, in this cooking, I have my recipe master list, which are things that I really like, blue chips, which are things that are pretty much always good, high protein meals, protein shake recipes, snacks, blah, 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 gain it meals, which is what, because I'm trying to put on weight, all this kind of stuff. And under all of these certain things, like if we go to, for example, books and stuff like that, we can see all the books that I'm taking notes on or want to take notes on or things like this, and my ratings next to them. So I always know where to go for my book reviews. And then, of course, I have my podcast notes, my blog notes, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, we get onto the archive sections. Now, the archive section is fairly simple, right? The archives is just a bunch of junk, right? It could be anything from music, old relationship notes, not necessarily romantic, right? Poker notes, consulting notes, being a doctor, right? Because I am a doctor, but I'm not a practicing doctor anymore. Journals, personal information, So let's go over a few quick tips with specifically notes that make it much, much more powerful. So if you look at, for example, one of my folders here, right? There's a lot of things inside of your Apple Notes that you can actually do that make it like game changing. So the first thing you can do, right, is you can do bullet lists. So bullet lists are obviously pretty simple, but the keybind for that is Command Shift 7, and then you can just do type, right? Or if you want to do a regular list, you do 1 ... But the game-changing thing here, because one of my favorite parts about Notion was having a toggleable list, right? So a toggle list is something that you open and you close, you open, you close, so you don't just spam your entire note system and have to read through everything. You can see these categories and then kind of expand and look down at them to see kind of what's going on. So what you can do, if you want to make a heading in Apple Notes, right, a big heading, you do Command Shift H, and this is a big heading. And then if you do Command Shift J, it actually does a subheading. And then obviously in the subheading, you could say, whatever, my name is Zach. This guy makes great YouTube videos, for sure. And then what you'll see is that when you collapse the subheading, it goes away. But if you collapse the heading, they both go away, right? Because you could have multiple subheadings under this. So Command Shift J, subheading 2, and then blah, 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 blah. So you'll see, okay, I can collapse this one, I can collapse this one, and then if I want to collapse both things within the subheading, I can just collapse them right there, right? Pretty simple, pretty cool, game changing for me, made my life a whole lot easier. The other thing you can do is you can actually link to other notes within the notes, another game-changing thing. So you see these yellow things here? This is actually me linking to other parts of my notes, right? And this is just a standard operating procedure. I'll get into that another thing, but when I have sometimes people help me write like scripts and YouTube videos and blog posts and stuff like that, I'll send them something like this so they can actually look at it. And that's, again, collaboration, right? So we're collaborating. They can edit these things, they can see these things, they can see my updates in real time, so I don't have to make one of these Notion lists or Asana things or Monday things. Again, I just want it very, very simple, and using the ability to collaborate, subheadings, link to other notes, subfolders, I can organize my entire life with just notes. Okay, so, and it's just made my life so much easier. And again, maybe if I had a huge company or a huge business, it would be too limited to do, but because it's just me working alone with a couple contractors and stuff like that, I don't need something crazy huge, right? And it's actually better for me to keep it simple. But okay, so for example, what you can see is I've linked to my Start Here section, which is just showing people kind of what my whole YouTube channel is about, what I want to do, which is, you know, help people, provide evidence-based information, blah, 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 blah. But what you can actually do, right, is if you do two of these arrow things, right, two of those little, like, I don't know, less than symbols or greater than symbols, whatever you call it, the alligator mouth, you know what I'm talking about, the alligator mouth, you'll see you can have all these different folders here which you can link to. And if I start to write something, start here, I can see, oh, okay, it's the Start Here section. I hit enter, bam. And then it just pastes itself there, which is the title of one of these notes, right? And that could be anywhere throughout your notes folder, right? So what I could do is say, oh, welcome, Start Here. Oh, okay, here's the welcome, Start Here section. Here's some more headings. Here's some more sub things. And then I actually have some SOPs, and I'm working on making this a little bit more fancy, right? But these are my SOPs for in case someone wants to help me work on titles or thumbnails, right? They can say, all right, so now I basically learned how Zach likes to write his stuff. I just go here, right? Okay, that's interesting. But what is Zach about? Okay, I'm going to go to welcome, Start Here. How does he like to do his titles? I'll click that, da 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 da. And you see the way you set it up can be very simple, but very, very powerful. And this is why I love Apple Notes so much. Again, it syncs on my iPhone, my iPad, all my different working computers and personal computers. It can send this to any person kind of on the internet who has any kind of iPhone. They can edit these things. They can even edit these things from a computer. You know, if they don't have a Mac, if they don't have an Apple, they'll just go to the web browser, and it's changed my life, right? I can probably still improve this. I can probably make the folders a little bit better, but it's been working for me for the past year and a half, 2 years, and I have no plan of changing soon. I hope that inspired you. I hope that helped you. Again, I love Apple Notes. It's made my life so much simpler. It's free if you have an Apple or Mac or anything like that. Again, projects, 1 to 3 of the most important action items, things that you're working on, projects, right? Actions, right? Everything else in your life that you need to take action on, categorized maybe into business, personal life, MECE, and relationships, right? That should cover every single thing you could possibly do. And then basically learnings, right? Learnings, all learnings is going to do is contain every single thing that you might be learning about. So maybe you're learning from certain books or about cooking, or even if you're in school or studying or something like that, you could make a bunch of subfolders, a bunch of headings that link to each other and stuff like that. In notes, you can also draw and stuff like that. That could be biology, chemistry, and then a subfolder that says, you know, chapter 1, chapter 2, da da da. It's so powerful. And then archives is just where you dump everything else, so you clean out this folder and stuff like that. Now, what I also do is I usually go to the Things app, and every Sunday is I'll basically write to-dos to myself throughout the week, and every Sunday I'll look at that to-dos app and put it on notes somewhere, wherever it needs to be. All right, this system is really powerful. You can shift, jump, jive, jiggle, jump, and yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. I think, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with that Apple John. I don't know where that accent's coming from. I am from Philadelphia. Okay, we're gonna cut all this out. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Give Apple Notes a try. See if you like it. Try some toggle lists. Try some headings, subheadings, and I will see you on the next one. Yes, Apple, you win. You win, Apple. You win.